Well, well, well. What you are seeing in front of you is not a prank, it's not a social experiment. I do have indeed access to the beta of Dragonflight right now. Thanks to Blizzard for being only 70 days late from when the alpha invites started going out in mid-July. It only took Blizzard some 72 days to give me beta access. Of course, much better to hand out beta keys to Twitter professionals who do absolutely nothing and produce zero content for this game over myself, of course. This blaming aside, I have finally gotten access to the beta, which is going to open up way more, I would say way more opportunities for reporting several bits of content available in Dragonflight now that I can play it myself. That's gonna be very, very interesting to go through. Of course, we have a video from a couple of days ago, this thing right here, I guess, which is still true. The point of that video is that at the moment in the beta you can't try out what players would be most interested in, which is, okay, fine, Dragonflight is coming out, I keep seeing all of these changes, all of these new talents, old talents, changes, buffs, nerfs, decisions from the developers about different specs. What interests me is what I'm going to play in Dragonflight. This is usually, generally, going back from my memories of Warlords, Legion, BFA, it's what players are going to be interested in when looking at a beta. Right? The situation, the state of the classes and specs, so that they can decide, choose and pick which characters to play. And the point of that video, let's just repeat it again, this video right here, was that right now it's way too early to gauge anything like that in the beta. At the moment even worse, because we are in the max level server in the beta, Valdraken, which essentially has herded all of the players in a playpen in Orgrimmar, and they can't leave. If you try to leave out, you're gonna get teleported back into Orgrimmar. Why? Because in this build of the beta, professions are being tested out. There is a vendor giving you all of the materials and reagents you want, so you can start playing around with the new profession system to simulate the end game of the profession system. You know, seeing what you can craft once you get to max level and once you expand in your profession, so to speak, talents. So that's what you're doing in the max level server. Or you can go and level up in the level up servers. So the important part, as I was mentioning, for the beta, which is testing out the classes, testing out the specs, is not really here yet. There is still no Mythic Plus, even though we have reported that it seems like Inspiring and it seems like Necrotic are not going to be part of the next season. Mythic Plus is still not available. There is also no availability of the raid, so you can't test the raid either. And we also have plenty of talents that are either not yet implemented or Blizzard is still working on them, so you can still expect plenty of changes to several of the specs and several of the classes, which makes it near impossible to try out properly most of the specs. To finish, just to give it the final nail in the coffin, there is no available simulation, there is no available big brain AI telling you what's good and telling you what's bad, telling you what's powerful and what's less powerful. So it makes it essentially useless to start thinking about this type of content for Dragonflight, which is why I have been relaxing, trying out the professions, looking at what's going to be available at end game level for professions. I have to say Alchemy looked really good when it comes to all of the options for your potions and all of the options for your vials. In case you're not aware, the vials or vials, I heard you can pronounce it either vial or vial. Anyways, that thing right there is replacing flasks. So there are not going to be any more flasks. Instead, you have this new shorter duration consumable, which is going to have plenty of different options, including options, for example, to buff your crafting stats. So not just your stamina, your strength, your crit, your haste, or your healing, but also things like finesse or things like precision, which is just a crafting stat that you can use if you want to go on a crafting spree. You just can use one of those files to buff yourself up. That looked quite interesting. Other specs and professions are not nearly as clear, mostly because what is going to be important about these professions, of course, is the long-awaited possibility to craft mythic raid quality gear with professions. And even though Blizzard gave us a vendor, even though Blizzard made it possible to start crafting stuff towards the end of the skill levels, that type of crafting is still not available. There are two main materials needed to get that type of high item level crafting, which are not available yet. And those are the ones that are supposed to be the more grindy, the more time consuming to obtain, because supposedly they will require multiple professions, multiple crafters from different professions working together to get the craft complete for you to craft the item itself. So alchemy, which of course is just potions, elixirs, phials and whatnot, is already fully open and available, but all of the other professions for gear crafting, so blacksmithing, leatherworking, tailoring, all of that stuff is still not quite clear how difficult, how grindy, how challenging it's going to be. I did see that it took forever to get to skill 100. You know, it looks very fast if you do it on the beta, but when you realize that you had to craft some 20 plus epic items to even get one skill point, when you realize it's gonna cost you some 3, 4, 5, 6, 700 of these epic materials, yeah, you can see how it could get a little bit grindy in live, in retail, when you actually have to craft those things yourself and you won't have a vendor just giving them to you for free. Besides the professions, I have actually been a little bit disappointed in the tier sets. No. The bonuses, the set bonuses of the tier sets are not out yet. I'm purely talking about a cosmetic perspective. I mean, look at this. There is Viridian, green, light green, then there is yellow, and then there is blue, and then there is white, gray-ish. If you asked me, I would have told you that the white is LFR, blue is normal, yellow is heroic, and then the green is mythic. At the very least, one of the green, yellow, blue has to be mythic because it's the coolest color. Instead, disappointingly enough, the mythic version, which is the one that will get this thing right here, is the one that gets the particle effects, the shiny final touch to the set. It's for the gray one, for the more bland, soulless, and uninspiring color. You know, I thought there was this logic, it was implicit, Blizzard never had to say it out loud, but I always thought that the brighter the color, the more rare it is, right? The more flashy, the more just blindingly over the top it is, the more rare it is in difficulty. So Mythic is the flashiest possible, and then LFR is just some hobo, gray, brown, depressing colors. Instead, we are basically going the other way around. I mean, look at this. Maybe we have different flavors, different opinions, different styles, but I do believe that this blue color is vastly superior to this depressing gray. And yet, the depressing gray is what gets the special particle effects, the special little lightning effects compared to the blue one. So that's disappointing, I have to say. One of the first few things I noticed when I got into the beta, I wished the colors were reversed, were swapped around, because the mythic gear color is not, at least for me, definitely not the cooler one available right now. Now, besides the happiness of being in the beta and being able to start testing out a bunch of stuff, I have to say that we will start eventually to stream a little bit. I haven't streamed yet, mostly because, well, Shadowlands content has gotten quite boring, has gotten quite dull. There wasn't really much to stream, and I'm not one for React streaming and literally just AFKing, letting my simps create my content for me. I mean, it's fine every once in a while, but generally you would like to be able to play something, and Shadowlands hasn't given us too much to play, so I was waiting to be able to get into the beta to start playing and being able to stream. Now that we have the max level server locked to basically just professions is also quite not entertaining enough. So I'm waiting until we get, for example, the Mythic Plus open, the raid testing open, and a few other systems being available in the max level server, so that you can actually start testing the beta for real, to be able to start streaming. And don't worry, I will let you know when that happens, whenever that happens. I'm assuming in the next couple of weeks we will get some additional changes for the beta. So that's when I'm gonna start getting more into the content with the streaming of the Dragonflight Beta. But besides that, and besides this celebration of me acquiring the beta, meaning much more content, at the very least relevant content, I won't have to just bore you every single time with some Shadowlands farm raid footage over and over again, because it's getting boring to do anything else. Other than that, the only other thing worth talking about in terms of Dragonflight actual news, rather than the celebration of my beta access, is the developer comments about the Mythic raid crafting pieces, which is something we just talked about, and it's related to item level. Now, to refresh your memory, this is the current Dragonflight item level scheme. One for the raid, one for Mythic Plus. So this is what you can expect being available in Mythic Raiding and in Mythic Plus. Now, the comments from the developer was as follows. Currently, the intention is that quality 4, again, crafting in Dragonflight is going to have up to 4 different quality levels. The higher the quality, the better the item level when it comes to crafting gear. Currently, the intention is quality 4 Mythic upgraded profession gear will be equivalent to the early bosses in Mythic, with quality 5 being 3 item levels above that. Quality 4 would be the entry-level Mythic crafted gear, and then quality 5 would be the 2nd to 3rd to 4th boss Mythic quality gear. The other question is, okay, but then what about time? Because if these things we are crafting are not going to be best in slot, because they're not going to be the highest item level, then if it's going to take 1 month or 2 months of grinding to be able to craft these, then what's the point? You know, in 2 months, players will pretty much be able to pug the first few bosses. What's the point in crafting the gear if it's so low item level? The dev says that crafting quality 4 or 5 items would be hypothetically, possibly early in the tier. It would take the cooperation of multiple crafters to make the best profession gear, the best reagents, and someone specialized in the item being made. So if you want to craft the gloves, you need to be a blacksmith who specialized into armor smithing, who then went into the glove crafting specialization. But, he says, it should be possible, although difficult, very early on, with enough concerted effort. So, even if the item level is not the best available, because there are going to be the later bosses of Mythic Raiding to be better than crafted gear, this one will still be mid-tier Mythic Raiding level, and if you grind, if you do content enough, we still don't know how much, but if you do it enough, you will be able to craft it quite early on. So that's the point about profession crafting. Remember, by the way, that this is not Legion, this is not BFA, you don't just have one of these. You can equip many of these, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can just equip how many you can craft. So it's not just one, which makes it quite important, especially for players who just don't have access, don't raid as much, for example. You still have the caveat. I also heard another question, another possible complaint about this one being pay to win. Okay, well, Blizzard is giving us Mythic Raid quality gear for crafting. This is just a trick from Blizzard to get players to buy tokens to afford all of these crafted Mythic quality pieces. No, because the rarest pieces, the rarest materials and reagents necessary are going to be dropping from Mythic Raiding. And we still don't know what it means by from the equivalent of high Mythic Plus keys and high rated arena. And those are going to be bind on pickup. Those are not going to be able to be provided from the crafters even if you're using commissions. So even if you're saying, I'm buying a token, I'm giving the gold to the crafter via a commission, and he is going to provide me with all the materials I need, you still won't be able to do it with the Mythic Raiding materials, or the high Mythic Plus materials, or the high rated arena materials. Those materials, even with commissions, have to be provided by you, by the one who wants the item. So even then, you have to be participating in high level content yourself to loot the bind on pickup material yourself to then craft the Mythic Raiding quality gear. So even if you have multiple pieces of Mythic Raiding quality gear being able to be crafted now, you will still need to participate in that content to a small degree at the very least to be able to loot the materials in the first place. So even in that case, pay to win isn't really gonna be a thing with this type of crafted gear in Dragonflight. So this was the only worthwhile piece of news mentioned yesterday on Friday. There isn't really nothing else to talk about. This was just supposed to be a celebration video for my beta, really. So we can stop here for this Saturday. Of course, as usual, thanks to all my patrons. I believe that the more patrons I had, the higher the chance of getting a beta invite was. So thanks to all of you. You can also support me even more by liking and commenting down below on this video, as well as supporting me by subscribing to my channel, which is always more or less the end goal of a YouTube channel. And then lastly, finally, of course, for more social interactions and whatever else, you can follow me on Twitter, as well as subscribing to my Patreon right around here on these two links. Now, I'm going to leave you to the rest of your weekend. Thank you guys again for watching. See you guys soon. And in the meantime, finally, I have some footage to put on my videos other than the 50th re-clear of the fated raid bosses dying in 2 minutes because they are jokes. Thank you.